This congregation says yes.
And these people are marvelous. You just say, would you like to do something for the church? And you get yes.
There is so much talent in this church. And we ask people to do, go to a con with the teens, yes. Go do a play with the kids, yes.
There was a classified ad said interested in a liberal religious organization. And I said, me, and I called the number, and that was Lowell Steinbrenner. And we went, they had an organizational meeting at the Freelander Chalet, and I said, this is where I belong.
We had been attending a UU fellowship in Lafayette, Indiana, and it was a fairly big fellowship. And so I knew when I was on my job interview here, I said, I saw in the phone book there's a UU fellowship, and they drove me past the Grange. I thought, okay, so we went in, and it's like, wow, this is, I knew it would be small, but it was pretty small. And so very different, just to kind of get used to that, but everybody was very welcoming, really from the very beginning.
I started attending at the Grange in about 1990 or 91, and yes, it was just a plain old rental building, and we had to, every morning before church, we'd have to get all our chairs set up and hymnals out and programs, and then at the end of every day we'd have to pack them all back in our cabinet. All we had was one little cabinet in the corner, and it was probably about 35 members back then.
I'd like to say that the happiest moment that I think I've ever had is when I was the president of the board and I called the vote for buying the building and for hiring Elaine as minister.
There were a few people that I think decided that if it was either grow or be doomed to stay the same size, and we ended up not only hiring another minister but also buying our first building, which then gives you the identity of now we've got our own place, we've got our own permanent sign, and again getting more people involved, and we grew quite quickly for a short time, a spurt of growth after we got our own building. Then when we decided to make the next step and build a new building, which of course we discussed many things. We had many surveys, build a building, buy a building and renovate it. During construction, we chose to hold back a portion of the work for our own people to perform. Since we had a professional painter that attends our fellowship, we decided to be in charge of all the painting, and we also were in charge of the low voltage communication wiring, not the wiring of the building itself, but all the speakers and microphones and computer wiring. So things like that got people enthused. When we had our groundbreaking, we probably had 50, 60 people all gathered around to watch the groundbreaking. Again, getting people involved in the process all the way through.
One of the driving factors that we've been recognized for this award is obviously because of the building that we built and the fact that we were one of the first, or the first church in the United States to win a gold LEEDS award. So I think that obviously is a big part of it.
Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance?
We have a great membership committee, and they were really, I think we started when we were still at the old building on Saybold, but they were just forming as we left there, and they've just done a great job of really making sure new people are greeted and following up and getting information to them.
And we were met by two very, very nice people, Bert Bishop and Dia Miller. And Dia Miller took us in and made sure we had a place to sit. Bert made sure we had a hymnal in our hand and an order of service.
I remember walking in, there was definitely someone at the door to greet you when you came in, and I didn't have to look around to figure out where to go to.
We have a lot of activities that we do for the new members that join. We feel strongly for that as well, and giving people the opportunity to know others I think that's another reason this church is so strong in the people field.
You have newcomers coming and you need to welcome them and you need to notice them and you need to encourage their participation.
And at the end of the service, we had something that hadn't happened to us in all the different churches that we had visited. And the thing that happened to us is the minister came back, Elaine came back and talked to us personally.
This is the church of the flaming chalice. This is the church of the open mind.
Every Sunday we have more and more kids. So it seems like there are a lot of young families that are looking for a religious liberal alternative.
We live in a conservative district, and both of our children have had conservative messages about religion taught to them in their classrooms. And so the nice thing here is they get exposed to a wide range of ideas, and they also get exposed to a different interpretation of Christianity and other messages. And that's been very helpful to them to be able to answer questions or to be able to ask questions, both here and in their schools and at home.
I think there's just a culture here of appreciating children as human beings, not just as small bypassers. And I think it's contagious. We all treat the children like they're important and they have something important to say.
I felt as if from the moment I walked in that my talents, my skills would be utilized.
I've always described UUs as people looking for their own spiritual journey but doing it together, and that's what makes us a group. And I think that's certainly evident here, that we don't all have the same ideas, the same beliefs necessarily, but everyone is very interested and respectful of everyone else's ideas.
That they really care about each other. They may not always agree and they may not always be each other's favorite person, but they support each other.
When I think about the one thing that has made it easy for me to slip in and to be part of the UU Fellowship, it's the fact of that when you're in a committee meeting, when you're talking at the coffee hour after the service, or when you're in the act of worship, in no way is there any sense of someone has been here longer.
We have a real sense of community here.
There's also, that I think is important, is that the challenging nature that we're challenged to grow and discover more about ourselves and ways to help the world be a better place.
So I think there's real warmth here, and I think that people feel welcome.
There are so many opportunities, I think, in this church for people to find something. We have a drumming circle that meets. We have the pagans groups that meets. We have the P-Flag group that is very active in this church. So many things, and all it takes is one person from that group to invite somebody, and then they feel accepted and wanted. I think all it takes is just one person to say, we'd like to have you on membership committee.
I think a big way we're successful is just because the community is so open here that if you want to try something new, they let you do it.
There's the people who are more thinking and there's the people who are more feeling, and this is a place where they get together and accept each other for how they are and know that everyone's valuable in their own way.
I think it's including everyone in the decision making and trying to be as democratic as we possibly can.
They let me be who I was, and they let me share.
I've been in churches a long time, and churches often are filled with, we've done it that way, doesn't work, never done it that way, won't. The congregation says, well, let's think about it. Maybe and yes.
Resound